You're listening to Cinema Rex. It's an Iranian film podcast, episode 64, Mohammad Rasoulov's Laird, also known as Man of Integrity. Did I throw you off with that title just now?
Oh, because of pronunciation?
No, of the Iranian title being Laird.
Oh, no. Why?
You know that the title
Yeah.
is Laird?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I guess we'll get into it in behind the scenes in trivia, because I listened to him talk about that title change.
Cool.
It was initially called Durud Bar Shama Dustan Aziz, was the original title.
This is the Cinema Rex podcast?
No, there's a subheading.
Oh.
Yes, that was a subheading. That was a
Okay. Is there a subheading? Or a log
no,
line?
Yes, it was. The subheading was I'm Kaveh Mohebi.
And I'm Farhan Moradi.
No, I think that was it. I think it was just that first part.
My bad.
Yeah.
I think that's the sequel.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
To LA. Welcome
From
back
LA.
to Toronto from LA. To our hearts and minds.
Welcome back from your cottage trip where
Yep.
your
Or anything
phone
goes.
fell in a swimming pool.
Yeah.
How's your phone doing?
Yeah. Took a plunge. It's fine. Marvel of modern technology. You can just do whatever you want.
Sick.
It wasn't so much a fall as it was in my pocket.
And
And
you
I
fell
realized.
in the pool?
Well, I was in my swimming. It doesn't matter. You know what? Nobody cares
Wait,
about
why were you swim? Was it not cold here?
It was an indoor swimming pool. We don't need to talk about this on the podcast. I showed you a picture of it.
Yeah,
Cut most
I
of
don't
this
know.
out.
I don't know why when I saw
this is a casual conversation we're having about my phone.
okay, the people care. The
They
people
don't
want to
care.
know that you're alive. That was some of the feedback I've gotten is some people being like, "Yo, I like when you guys like talk a little bit."
Nobody likes when we talk.
Yeah, you're right.
Anyways, on to us talking for the next 2 hours.
Yeah, let's do it.
Did you watch this on a plane like you've been watching all of your last movies?
No, I waited to watch this one at home because you and I both have like a really good Blu-ray copy of the film.
Yes, we do.
So as a result, I'm like very fresh because I only had like I've been home for less than 12 hours. Actually, now it's been about 12 hours.
Well, I think we should do it properly just because I realized we didn't do our regular preamble of Durud Bar Shama Dustan Aziz, this Cinema Rex podcast where we talk all things films, acting, driving, goldfish in ponds,
Bribery, corruption,
corrupted companies,
religious persecution,
dark motives,
extortion,
I
honor
felt
killings.
like you got a shout out in this film. I'm Kaveh Mohebi.
I audibly yelled out when that happened, and I'm Farhan Moradi.
What did you yell out?
Oh shit!
You didn't like yell out some Baha'i prayer?
No.
This film obviously is known more, I guess it's more well known on the Western side of the world as Man of Integrity, but as far as Rasoulof is concerned, this film's title is Laird. Do you know what that is? It's not that common of a word. Even the Stanford Persian film prof, who's Iranian, said he wasn't familiar with the word. So Mohammad Rasoulof had to explain, don't Google it, just talk to me.
No, I don't.
It's sediments. It's like it's a Turkish word. I mean, I could use this in behind the scenes in trivia, but it's just good to know off the top. It's the sediments that are left when you're making your own wine or booze. So like whenever you're making wine, the sort of impurities of that wine kind of sink to the bottom. And it's a Turkish word they call it Laird, Lerd. And Rasoulof essentially said, and I'll go into behind the scenes and deeper analysis for why it is, but the Man of Integrity is not a title that he's not really down with, but it was essentially the distributors being like, you got to give us another title, Rasoulof, baby.
Hey, this is showbiz, baby.
This story about a man with integrity. We need to give it another title, like something like I don't know, like Man of Integrity.
Some kind
or
of a
something.
man who's got some kind of integrity.
Which I think is weird. I feel like this title could have been Sediments.
Yeah.
And I still feel like it would have had some of the effect, especially when you get into the deeper analysis of it all.
Yep.
But before we talk about this film any further, I will dive into it's a 2017 film, by the way. So relatively recently film.
Yeah.
A recent film.
Relatively recently filmed.
Let's dive into plot summary before I get mocked any further.
Okay. You're still going to get mocked, but go ahead.
I know. A Man of Integrity, Laird, by Mohammad Rasoulof. A former university professor now living as a goldfish farmer in a northern Iranian village, Reza quietly tends to his own affairs alongside his wife Hadis, a principal at a local girls' school, and their young son. After his river source water supply is cut off, Reza's goldfish begin dying. His attempt to reopen his sluice is met with a violent attack by a thuggish local named Abbas, a strongman for a shadowy organization known simply as The Company. Reza refuses to compensate Abbas for a fake injury or bribe his way out of mounting legal problems, but he quickly discovers the steep price to be paid for holding on to principles in a system where money trumps morality and everything is corrupt. This has a 100% Rotten Tomato score.
Wow.
And a 75% audience score.
Well, that is a big difference.
25. I've seen films with way bigger discrepancies.
I don't think I've ever seen a movie with a 100% critic score with a user score that low.
Interesting. That's worth a research. But I ask you, Faran, June, Aziza, what did you think of Laird, Man of Integrity?
I really liked it. It almost felt like an Iranian mob film in a lot of ways. Did you get that sense?
Yes. It gave me feelings of, spoiler for a lot of things I'll say down the line, but have you seen Chinatown?
Yes.
Robert Towne film?
Yeah.
This is very much like Chinatown.
I'll never watch it again, but I watched it the one time.
Why would you ever watch it again?
Polanski directed it.
Oh, right. I forgot. Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Roman Polanski is currently a wanted criminal.
Knows. Everybody knows about Polanski. Nobody listening to an Iranian film podcast doesn't know what Polanski's deal is. And that man is innocent in my mind. I'm just kidding. No, keep that in. I want the world to know how I feel about one Polanski. In that film, Jake Geddes, played by Jack Nicholson, it's like this neo-noir thriller about one man's fight against a corrupt water supply company in California.
Yeah. And
it's just interesting how so much of this film hinges on that sort of development. It's like this shadowy company that's also controlling the water supply and poisoning the water. It's just, there were so many parallels.
Yeah.
But yes, continue. I interrupted.
No, I asked you a question. You didn't interrupt.
I said, yeah. Well, right. But please continue. So you liked the film.
I did like the film. I thought the initial premise was pretty cool. And it's cool to see how every step of the way, as this guy is trying to get out of a rough financial situation in an honest way, everything just keeps taking a bad turn.
Yeah.
It's almost like Murphy's Law in the sense of any opportunity that you might come up against some corruption in the system, you will come up against the corruption in the system.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He can't catch a break. It's a guy who's trying to do the honest thing. But it also seems like, I don't want to get, it's hard to talk too much about it without getting into the spoilers.
We could talk about some major plot points because it's worth it just to kind of give a sense. I don't know if this is a film that can be spoilery unless you get to the final act. But
that's what I was going to talk about. I was going to mention the last act. But I mean,
don't do that yet.
The film gives a great commentary and look on the different kinds of corruption throughout Iranian society, which I appreciated. Yeah.
The main character is named Reza, is essentially trying to find a way out of the fact that he's trying to be a humble farmer who, he's moved out of the main city, moved to, I think it's Rasht. Is he living in Rasht?
Yeah.
I believe he is.
Now they're in Rasht. Or just out, they're a small town just outside Rasht somewhere.
And the man's just trying to do his own thing, really, kind of live off the grid. He tends to these goldfish. And then when his water's cut off, he goes back to the dam and opens it. And essentially you see this confrontation with this guy, which is actually not seen, but results in essentially they were fist fighting. And that escalates to then that man, Abbas, who it becomes a cat and mouse game of Abbas is one-upping him in terms of poisoning his water supply so that all his goldfish die. Then he realizes Abbas is also complaining about a fake injury. And every step of the bureaucratic system of him trying to not even do what's right, but do what's just, he's being wronged by this man. And every step is dude, just pay off these people, bribe these guys, bribe the cops. And he's like, I'm not going to do that because then I become another cog in this perpetual wheel of corruption. He knows his life could be so much easier if he just feeds into the corruption, plays the game, pays off the people he wants, and he comes out on top. But he refuses to. Like the title, he is a man of integrity. And it's actually a very frustrating film to watch. And I watched this with my wife, Mariam, who's also Iranian for people who might not know. And she was telling me how it was, and she made a astute point of how it's frustrating to watch this film given the politics of what's happening in Iran. I mean, this stuff's always ever frustrating, but it's just like increasingly like seeing the level of corruption that this is like their day-to-day lives of how you have to just navigate through the world to pay essentially what is, in my opinion, and I think the opinion of this podcast, the IRGC in Iran is they're just a bunch of thugs. They're gangsters. It's a mafia system. This is not about the theocratic elements of Islam. Like these guys are not accurately portraying the tenets of Islam. They are also thugs.
To your point too, like the point to which that corruption has taken hold, bribery has basically become the actual way of doing things. So everyone's constantly like screwing each other over, not doing things, and it's like you have to like work in the budget of your projects like a line item for bribery.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so frustrating. And watching him go through this, where every step of the way he takes one step forward and then two steps back because the system, the powers that be, are pushing him back. And it is obviously trying to convey that emotion in you, but at the same time, you can't help but feel so angry for him for the the unjustified treatment of this guy.
Yeah.
I also wanted to know, before we go into very specific things, I like the film too. I haven't said that yet. I like the film.
Imagine after all that, you're like, this movie sucks.
No, I don't think this film sucks. I wonder if it's so far my least favorite Rasoulof film of the films we've watched and covered. Those films being White Meadows, which still to this day is one of the best Iranian films I've ever seen. I think we gave that an A. I gave that an A+.
I kind of regret not giving that movie an A++ in hindsight.
There Is No Evil. We did Seed of the Sacred Fig. And I wonder if this would be like in fourth place for me. But the thing is, this is for discussion right now. Sometimes I wonder if Rasoulof has trouble ending his stories, with the exception of White Meadows. Because I remember feeling the same way of Seed of the Sacred Fig. I really, really liked Seed of the Sacred Fig, but I felt that film by the second half, and specifically the third act, had some pacing issues. I just remember feeling like a little unsatisfied by how the film ends.
There's a version of this movie where the ending of this film could have been the midway point.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you condense, there's a lot of stuff that happens in the movie that I think you can like trim down or simplify and make the climax of this film the midway point. And then I want to see like, okay, where does this go for the second half? You know what I mean? Very similar to The Godfather.
Yeah.
Like
this film does have elements of Godfather 2 as well.
This is almost like if you end the movie on Michael's dinner with McCluskey and what was his name? The Turk.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. There Is No Evil is an anthology, so you don't really need to have this cohesive ending, right? You're doing sort of four short films that, and I have to watch more Rasoulof films, and we will get there in time.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if, of the films we've done, this is 3 for 4 where it's either an ending is not needed because of the anthology, or it's like a little bungled in the dismount, for my opinion.
Maybe. I can see it.
Do you want to hear an opening image, Kavi's opening image corner?
Yeah.
That's the right answer. Do you remember what the very first image of this entire film is?
Yeah, it was a needle piercing a round surface, which kind of looks like a skull. Yeah. And then a liquid being injected into it.
Yeah.
And then it cuts wide and we see that Reza is injecting something. It's probably like yeast or some kind of like...
No, it's a watermelon.
No, I know. I'm saying what he's injecting. Probably like yeast. It's probably like bloomed yeast or something being injected into a watermelon, and then it's wrapped up and placed under floorboards.
Yeah, it's whatever needs to make the fermentation process happen within the watermelon to make it into alcohol. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it looked so much like someone's bald head that I do wonder if they were even using a watermelon for that scene. Like in the way it's lit, and shadows and stuff, it's almost like they used something to look. That was not a watermelon in that first shot. It looked like a needle going to someone's head.
Yeah. They actually used the real head to make it look like a watermelon.
Yeah. I wonder if that's what does that mean for you? Let's go take you to film school right now. What does that imagery conjure for you?
The fact that that's the first thing that happens, and then throughout the movie we cut back to him pulling out this watermelon and doing the next step of creating this watermelon moonshine. It's like every time there's a major story beat, we cut back to him somewhere along the process of making this moonshine.
Yeah. I'm gonna say other things at deeper analysis. So I will just say my first thought was that this is like a metaphor for somebody poisoning your mind.
Yeah.
Like someone injecting a poison into your head.
Yeah.
It's interesting that they completely cut out the altercation with the man. When Reza first sees that the water's been cut off to his supply so that his goldfish in his farm are not getting sufficient water, he's following this dam, this river stream that follows up to the dam, and he sees the dam has been closed. Yeah. And when he goes to open it, you just see Abbas, who ends up becoming the main antagonist for Reza throughout the film, sort of approach him with a stick, and then you just cut to like a day later or something, or like later that evening, and he's been arrested.
Yeah. Do you even see him approach him with the stick? I missed that.
Yeah, he shows up.
I saw him. I remember seeing him go towards the dam.
Drive up too.
Right. Okay.
And it's just like you learn that they got into a big fist fight, and Reza essentially beat the crap out of Abbas because I think Abbas is older than he's an older man compared to Reza. But you just like now Reza's in jail for the night. It's an interesting choice. I don't know. What do you think about that? You feel okay about that?
Yeah. It's funny because in there's another movie that does something similar. Is No Country for Old Men.
Right, yeah.
I don't like when No Country does it because it's basically the climax of the movie. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas here, this is, I guess, like the turning point, or I would say this is the first turning point in the film. And not showing it, the ambiguity there, I think, like adds a layer of entertainment, I guess, to the film, because now you're like, oh, did he hit the guy first, or did the guy hit him first?
Yeah.
Like there's a little bit of like mystery solving that's left up to the audience to do, which is, I think, really fun, like interactive filmmaking and storytelling.
Yeah.
So I was okay with it.
Yeah, I was okay with it too. It's slightly more typical of Iranian films to do this. I think when they did this in No Country, I may be mistaken, but I believe it's because the book also does it too.
The book does too, and I didn't like it in the book either.
I also think there's a very interesting B story that kind of is presented in 30 minutes with Hadis, yeah. Hadis, who is Reza's wife, who is a principal of an all-girls school. Of course, all-girls school. It was a girls' school in Iran.
Yeah.
And it almost starts off with like it starts off almost like its own storyline, which dovetails then into Reza's storyline, which in ways that are really not complicated, but very interesting.
Yeah.
I guess we could just like gloss over it a bit. Do you want to talk about what happens there for people who haven't seen this film?
With Hadis?
Yeah, like what are the 3 stages of the storyline with her and the students?
Well, is the first one the one with the mom comes to her house?
Well, first she hears that one of the girls has been talking, or like one of the girls won't be coming to school anymore.
Yes.
And then the mother shows up.
Then the mom shows up and she's like, "Hey, my daughter was kicked out of school. I don't think this was just. There is no other school for her to go to in the region. Can you please revert this decision?" And Hadis is like, "Well, I don't have any power to do that. I'm not in charge, and I'm not the one who made this decision. This decision was made by the government, but she likely would have had to have been talking about something taboo to be kicked out." And she's like, "Well, what did she say?" And then she doesn't say anything. And then she's like, "My husband was fired after decades of working at this place without cause and with no compensation. My son was kicked out of university. My other daughter was not allowed to attend university. And now my youngest is being kicked out of school. Like, what am I supposed to do?" And then Hadis says, "My suggestion is move to another country where people don't know your religion."
Yeah.
And it's heavily implied that this family, that they're Baha'i.
Yeah. Yeah. And there also is a mention of how, like, why don't you just do what everyone else does and print an article in the paper saying that, like, denounce your religion?
Yeah.
And she's like, why should we have to do that? Well, actually, she doesn't say that. The teacher's telling the principal, why don't they just do this?
Right.
The next major beat too with the mom, which I think was really interesting, is once this cat and mouse game is happening between Reza and Abbas, you realize that now Abbas's son or daughter goes to this school. And what's really brilliant about the way this is done is you see this little girl show up to the school, and at first, because of the previous scene, you think, oh, is this still the Baha'i girl? Like, is it coming to talk to the teacher?
Yeah.
But then you slowly through dialogue realize, oh, this is Abbas's daughter. And she's questioning about whether or not Abbas's injury is real.
Right, yeah.
Because it's a major part of this case now that they're building up against Reza, that, oh, when he beat me up, I broke my arm or whatever.
Yeah.
This innocent girl that has nothing to do with
Abbas,
this.
or does he fight Abbas's son?
No, it's Abbas. He shows up.
It is?
He's behind him.
I know, but because we don't see the scene, I couldn't tell if it was like, I don't know why in my head I just assumed like Abbas's sons like get involved in the fight too, but
yeah, no.
I guess that's just headcanon.
And then this really interesting moment of how you kind of find this principal, Reza's wife, is now sort of blackmailing or threatening this little girl to like pass along a message, and that just escalates things further. And then meanwhile, Reza's son, Reza and Hadith's son, is getting into fistfights with Abbas's son, or no, the chief of police's son rather. Yeah, who's also like part of. It's just really interesting how like the corruption starts like filters throughout all of the elements of the life of like the school of life. It's in the schoolyards, it's in the police, it's in the hospitals, it's in the companies, the water, all of it, the lawyers, the tentacles of this like corruption has reached out to every aspect of society. You're kind of seeing this play out in real time through Reza's eyes, who just wants to get what's owed to him. And he's constantly faced with the option of like, well, you can sell your land or you can sell your farm and leave. And then he doesn't want to do that for a long time. But then when he finally decides he might do it, now they're offering him a terrible deal because they know he's desperate.
Well, not just a terrible deal. At first, he's like, the company won't put up an offer because they're saying it's worthless. Yeah. And he's like, also, it's in their interest to just wait it out. Yeah. For the value of your property to get lower and lower and then give you an even worse offer. And then he's like, what the hell? Like, yeah. They're just doing this and you're telling me this. He's like, this is insulting, whatever. And he goes to leave. And then that guy comes out after him and he's like, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. I'll buy your land from you myself with my own money.
The lawyer says that.
Yeah, the company lawyer. And then he's like, I'll give you half as much as we offered you last year. And he's like, what the hell? Why would I take that?
Did you tell me if you thought this? Because I wondered if that was just a tactic from the company. It's like, we're going to say no, but they tell their lawyer to give the offer 50%. I think that it almost seems like a second person.
I think that was a tactic by the guy. I personally don't think that the company had even put in an offer. I don't even think that he had put it forward to the company that this was going to happen. Yeah. But I think when he said that, the company will just wait, that's likely accurate. Yeah. The company would probably wait for the value to go down lower. But I think he didn't put it forward to the company so that he could come out and be like, I'll tell you what, I'll do you a solid. I'll buy it off you for half the price, blah, 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 all this stuff.
There's also really...
What did you think? What was your takeaway from that?
Well, I thought that's just another tactic by the company to give the lawyer... They tell the lawyer to tell Reza, the company says no, but I will buy it off you 50%. But that's still just the company doing it through another. Because there's this constant thing. The cop says to him, sell your farm. And he's like, you also better do it today. It's better to do it today than tomorrow. And earlier when he was like doing the initial bribe with the bank, the very first time, and he actually neglects to pay the thing. Everyone's constantly telling him, it's better to do it today than tomorrow. The interest rate is going to go up tomorrow. Right, yeah. And so on top of this like corruption... They're so sneaky because they do it on top of it. They're like, there's a ticking clock. They're always like, do it today though. If you do it tomorrow, you're gonna get a worse deal. Yeah. So not only do they screw you over, but they do it in such a way to like manipulate you to rush to make a bad decision. You know what I mean? They don't give you time to think about it.
It's like, what's it called? Racketeering?
Yeah.
When they like create the problem for you that you have to go to them to solve. Yeah. Also, I want to just point out the thing that he tries to help with at the beginning. He's basically helping the money launder, right? They're like, yo, help us launder this money and like mule this money or whatever, and we'll give you a cut of it. Is that what happened? And then when he brings the money back,
I think so.
They're like, this is too much. Yeah. And he's like, I didn't take my cut.
Yeah. He's like, he says I pay you too much, and he's like, I don't want to.
He's like, this is too much money. This isn't how much it was supposed to be. And then he's like, I didn't take a cut. Yeah. And then he ends up giving him like some chump change to be like, take something. Yeah, there's that whole thing of like everyone's playing everyone, and there's so many hands, and everyone's getting a taste of everything financially. Yeah.
Someone even tells him early on, Reza, you have to I think this guy in the car is like, Reza, you have to be like them. You have to make friends, pay bribes, or else they'll crush you. Yeah. There's a few things I do have questions about. I feel like we could just talk spoiler a little bit now. So if you haven't seen the film and you're interested, go do so and then come back here, or just learn about the ending now. And may
like the ending
you forever hold your peace. Yeah, just all of it, because there's stuff I'm confused about. I want to talk about in our reactions before we go into other stuff. Yeah. There's two really important things in this film that I don't know. I don't understand what happened. And I was like, I have to ask Farn about this on the podcast. Yeah. And the other thing is I even looked up to research it, but this was a hard film to research. I literally want to find the answer for it. So the two things I'll ask you, tell me if you know. One is there's a man he meets at a tea shop. You know, he stops at the tea shop for like a tea.
Yeah.
And the man picks him up in his car and is like seemingly on his side. He's helping him navigate how to get through this.
Yeah. He sees him earlier on in the movie. There's like a push in on him when he's at the cafe earlier in the movie. Yeah. And he just keeps like watching him.
But he helps him throughout the film.
Yeah. He starts to. Yeah.
Who is he?
Okay. So for my Faron's question corners, that's literally what I wrote is, who's this guy? Did I miss something? But okay, after the very end of the movie, I kind of have a theory.
Yeah.
I think this guy is a rival.
I see. Yeah,
that's possible. Abbas. It's one of two things. Either because he goes and who's the woman that he visits who's like smoking in the car with him, and then she's
that was the wife of his one friend growing up in university or whatever, who's now in jail.
She's in jail, or the friend's in jail?
She's like, no, they
right. Okay, yeah. So my one thing was, is this guy associated with that friend?
I don't think so, because he didn't really seem to know him.
No, he didn't. But I was like, oh, maybe I missed something. Mm-hmm. The other thing was maybe he's associated with, maybe he's like a rival to Abbas or to the company or something, because he seems to know a lot. He has a lot of dirt on Abbas. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And he's not going after Abbas himself for whatever reason. Because part of me is like, well, if he wants to see Abbas arrested, why doesn't he just do it? Why is he going through him?
Yeah.
So like clearly he would have to be like have a reason to sentence somebody else on him, right? But then at the very end of the movie, when Abbas ends up like dead and whatever, and all this stuff happens, he says to him, "Hey, thanks for like this random old guy comes up to him and he's like, hey, thanks for taking care of Abbas, but just a heads up, whoever sent you on Abbas and framed Abbas for everything that happened to your farm is now going to be keeping tabs on you." And then the old guy leaves, and then Reza's like, oh shit. Because this whole time, Reza thinks that Abbas was the guy who was messing with him and his farm and all this stuff, which later probably was the case. Yeah. But early on, it seems like someone was like pitting the two of them against each other.
I didn't catch that part at all.
What, the old guy coming up to him?
Old guy coming up to him and like making
after the funeral.
Like, yeah. I'm
so confused. Two guys come up. Okay, so at the funeral, two guys come up to him when he gets in his car.
Yeah.
Okay. The first person who comes up to him is like, it's an old man who's like, hey, thanks a lot for taking care of Abbas. Just watch your back, because the guy who pit you and Abbas against each other is now going to be keeping tabs on you.
Oh, man.
Which the revelation there is that Abbas was not the guy who was messing with his farm at first.
Yeah, okay.
Somebody else was doing it. Yeah. And then the second guy, so he leaves, and the second guy who comes, it was the lawyer guy from the company. Yeah. He's like, hey, man, I was talking to the guy who owns the company, the guy who is like implicated in like funneling drugs back and forth with Abbas. He's looking for a replacement for Abbas, and we think you might be the right fit.
Yeah, that part I caught. Yeah. He's essentially becoming what he hated.
Yeah.
He's replacing Abbas.
Yeah.
Which is powerful ending in and of itself. Is he sort of ends up playing the role of the guy who's also now part of this corrupted system. The thing he was avoiding the most, the way he solves his way out of it, is to just become part of it. Like it ends up swallowing him whole.
Yeah. So anyway,
I guess the other
answer your question, your Kava question, my Faran question corner is, my suspicion is that old guy was not just a good Samaritan, and he's actually someone who has something like a rival to Abbas.
I feel like that scene should have been written. Like he should have asked, like, "Why are you helping me?"
But see, that's why, and that's specifically why I wish the climax of the film was the midway point in the movie, because it raises such an interesting question that I want to see where the rest of that plot goes. Like, it really feels Godfather-esque to me.
Yeah.
Like, it just as it was getting really interesting with all that stuff, the movie ended.
There's a French film called Un Prophet. Un Prophet. How do you say Un Prophet in French?
Un Prophet.
I saw it in theaters. It's by Jacques Audiard. He did Rust and Bone. He's done a few films since. And it kind of, I'm going to spoil that film for you because it's like over 15 years old now. But it's about a guy who ends up in jail at the beginning of the movie, and he starts off as the lowest rung guy inside, but then he starts doing favors for people, and he gets like time off, and it's French prison system. So after a while, you can also like leave for a few, you can leave for a week and go back. And he starts climbing the ranks, and he essentially becomes like the head of a mafia by the end of the film.
Yeah.
And the last shot of the film is him leaving the prison, and like all of the henchmen are now following him as trusted soldiers.
Yeah.
Like he went as the lowest guy in the ranks and becomes like the Don.
Yeah.
And it's like the final image of the film is like how this reminded me of that. Is like this guy's Reza sort of become the next Abbas in a sense, you know? So it's very similar to that film. The one other question I have for you was, what was the thing with the candy? It's either obvious, it's just drugs. It's either hash or heroin or something.
Well, I think it's laced, whatever it is.
Because I know he screwed Abbas over by planting drugs in his house, and the cops finding it, and that's how Abbas goes in jail.
Did he plant them there? I missed that part. That's funny. It's like you and I missed the go. It's like every time I would like, because the movie has a lot of really important scenes for plot with no dialogue. So like, if I'm looking down and taking a note, if I look up, I'm like, wait, what happened? And then I have to like rewind it.
Yeah.
Because I had realized that like, oh, for the last 10 seconds, nobody said anything while I was writing.
Yeah.
I have to look up and rewind. But I missed that. Like how the drugs were
he plants it. And because he goes and buys it off like the streets. He borrows money from his wife or gets the money, whatever, from the school. It doesn't matter how he gets the money. And so that's how he gets arrested. But then I didn't understand what the final act. Well, how does Abbas die in your estimation then?
I think he laces the drugs.
I don't know. See, okay. There was some unclarity there. And maybe someone else knows. I'll tell you something really funny. I want to tell you something very...
I thought it was poison.
No, I thought it was like hash or heroin or something. Because why would Abbas take a random candy given to him by a stranger from outside?
No, I think that's what was inside the thing. The wrapper was poison that he wants the guy on the inside to cut with opium or cut opium with the poison.
I don't know because there's too many.
Because that's how he dies. It's very likely that he died from like the opium being laced with something.
I thought maybe he got like killed or something, but he kept having drugs on him or something. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I mean, it matters, but there's many loose threads.
He's like, hey, yeah, my friend who's in there, he needs he really needs drugs because he's super addicted. So can you get this for him? And he posts bail for him too to make it look like he was gonna get him out. You know what I mean? So he gives him the money to post bail. They go to post bail and then give him the laced drugs. The laced drugs kill him, and then he gets the bail money back anyway. Because obviously they didn't need to bail him out. And it makes it look like Reza was trying to like make amends.
It's so unclear.
But the guy killed himself by overdosing on drugs or whatever.
So I asked ChatGPT because I couldn't find this anywhere else. I read a bunch of Letterboxd. I read IMDb. I couldn't find an answer to the ending. So I'm like, I asked ChatGPT about the film, and I was like, the man he's battling against, Abbas, is sent to prison because of drugs that Reza plants in his house. Later, he gives him more drugs, hash, opium, disguises candy to a man connecting inside to give it to Abbas from inside. The next scene, we learn Abbas has died. How did Abbas die exactly? And ChatGPT goes on to this like overly academic way. Like he's just like, that part, of course.
I think ChatGPT is just making shit up.
Oh, yeah. Listen to that. We'll wait to this because then I'm like, but then he doesn't answer me clearly. And I'm like, who was the man who was aiding Reza in the scenes? And he like goes on. It's like, his function in the story, the gateway into corruption, mirror of Reza's future, blah, blah, blah. And then I'm like, you know what? I realized I caught onto his shit. ChatGPT's lying. Like,
I caught on the ChatGPT.
I'm like, who was the man dressed in a frog suit handing out telephone deals? Was he related to Abbas? And he's like, that wonderful. So that's what I asked because I'm like, ChatGPT's lying to me.
Yeah,
like
100%.
Like ChatGPT should be just saying to me like that is not in the film. But he goes, that wonderfully bizarre image, the frog suit guy hawking phone plans, feels like it should connect to something bigger. But in A Man of Integrity, it's actually doing something more thematic than narrative. He's not explicitly identified. And no, it's not directly related to Abbas. So why is he there? The frog suit represents absurdity of modern corruption. The dehumanization. It's just going on to like writing a fucking paper for me. Yeah.
It's so like planting you wrong information like you do with your BTS with me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, I'm fairly certain he doesn't give him drugs. He gives him poison.
Right. Okay. I don't know if that's correct, but maybe. There's a recurring image throughout the film where he keeps going to a hot spring in a cave that he goes in his isolation, which I will go into more in behind the scenes in trivia.
Sick.
He drinks his alcohol. He makes his watermelon alcohol. He goes there to be alone and drinks. There's also a really nice thing. This feels like Kiarostami a little bit, or maybe even Panay, where there's the scene where the son gets into a fight and the teacher's trying to figure out who's to blame.
Yeah.
Who started the fight.
Yeah.
And both kids are telling a version of the truth. And then the teacher brings in a witness who's another kid who witnesses how the fight went down first, and you don't know as the viewer. You're like, is this kid also part of, like, did the corruption company just get one of the kids to lie? Like, which kid is telling the truth? It's a very interesting thing.
I do believe the account of the other kid, but the other kid's account was like, he's not even refuting Abbas's story. Or, what's his name story? Esmen Shibud?
Reza's son?
Yeah, what was his name again?
Search the H. Sahand.
Yeah. He doesn't even refute Sahand's story entirely, but what he says is that when I got there, Sahand was on top of Abbas's kid and he was hitting him.
Right.
And then when I said when I tried to get him off, I noticed that he had a rock and he struck him in the head.
Right.
So I think it's still very possible that Abbas's kid was messing with Sahand, and then Sahand lost his cool and then took it too far. Okay. I believe that. Because that's like, it's also probably what happened with Abbas and Reza.
Yeah, we just don't know, and it's deliberately left vague because we don't see those scenes.
But that's there to show that if Reza doesn't potentially do something different, that Sahand is going to end up like Reza.
Yeah, possibly,
you know what I mean? Like, it's showing that this is like a cyclical issue. And even at one point when Reza goes to when he's meeting with the principal heavily implies the same thing to him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and I think that that's kind of when he decides that he's going to take things a step even further and end it once and for all, is because he realizes that if he doesn't play by their rules, that his son's innocence is at play.
Yeah.
So I think the only reason he does it, it's not because he's like, oh, I need to get revenge or I need to get ahead or whatever. I think he's intentionally damning his own soul to preserve the innocence of his son.
Mm-hmm. Two last things I want to say.
Yeah.
Then we can move on. Did you notice there's a Justice is Blind statue between him and the lawyer when he's at the lawyer's office? There's a statue
I missed that. That's cool.
Justice is Blind sitting there, which is just resonates to the themes. There's 2 sex scenes in this film that we cut away from.
There are?
Did you notice that?
No.
Yep. Early on in the film, it's between Hadis and Reza. Reza goes to take a shower, then Hadis starts cooking something on the pot, and then she looks over at him, and she's got this like smirk, like seductive smirk, and she slowly takes off her. Man, how long was your note you were writing at this point? She takes off her.
I think I just didn't put 2 and 2 together.
When she takes off her rusari, she just gets off camera, so you don't see her without her rusari on.
Okay.
And the water starts boiling, and that seductive smirk.
I get it.
She's going to join Reza in the shower, and because of the smirk she gives. And I told Miriam at the time, I'm like, oh, there's a sex scene right there. And then it's later confirmed in the behind the scenes I watched.
Okay.
That is a sex scene.
You know what's funny is when the water was boiling over like that, I was like, oh, is this because like Reza Jushumat? You know what I mean? Like he lost his cool. I was no, but it's like too far away from that scene. I was like, I wonder what this is about.
Foamier and whiter.
I got you. Yeah. I get it.
It's semen. It's a pot full of semen, metaphorically.
Kava. Thank you very much.
Yeah. He ejaculated. But basically, and then that happens again later on. After one of their bigger fights, they make up. And it's sort of implied by the way they're staring at each other very romantically over dinner or something. It cuts to a shot outside the window, and you just see their shadows moving through the window again. So it's implying again that
that one I
missed
entirely.
Gets at it.
That one I missed entirely. The other one I caught, I just didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Yeah. So cheeky, Mohammad Rasoulof, putting those little sexy moments in.
Sexy Mexy. Oh, I thought the cinematography in the movie deserves a shout out. It was very nice.
Very nice of them.
It was very nice and grounded, but it looked beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
When they're first building the case for Reza to countersue the guy or whatever, before they're like, oh yeah, without a trial, they already have a verdict. Like before all of that, she goes to a government official who works in water management, and she's like, hey, can you give a statement that confirms that the water was contaminated? And he's like, well, I don't want to get involved. These are your personal affairs, whatever. And she's like, no, I don't need you to put in your opinion on who did it and why. I just need you to write a letter confirming that the water was contaminated. And he's like, listen, I don't want to get involved, all this stuff. which I think was really nice commentary on like how any level of bureaucracy in Iran will have that level of like people not wanting to do the basis level of like paperwork unless you bribe them. And it also seems to imply that like even these water contamination people are somehow connected to Abbas or like the company that Abbas is partnered with.
Yeah. Okay, let's go behind the scenes in trivia.
Okay.
So I mentioned the thing about Laird being the title.
Yeah.
On why he titled the film Laird, he said, when I think about the social atmosphere of Iran and around me, the most serious problem I see is the problems on the top level have become like sediments and they trickle through and have reached every level of society and public domain as well. So he felt like the corruption felt like sediments, kind of like filtering down through from top bottom. And as I mentioned, the distributors were the ones who made him change the title, and in his mind, the film is still called Laird. So that's how the filmmaker sees the title. Gotta respect it. On 23rd of July 2019, Rasoulof was convicted by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard of Iran to 1 year imprisonment and a 2-year ban on leaving the country and on participation in social and political activity because of his film, A Man of Integrity. Laird. He is accused of gathering and collusion against national security and a propaganda against the system. In August 2019, Rasoulof appealed the verdict. On his way to the court, in an act of professional solidarity, he and his lawyers were accompanied by some of the most renowned Iranian filmmakers, including Kianush Ayari, Majid Barzagar, Reza Dormishian. We haven't done any of these guys. Askar Farhadi, Bahman Farmanara, Rakhshan Bani Tamad, and Fatime Motamedariya. Oh, and Panay was there too. And Hassan Pourshirazi. So a group of people that joined him in court, all these filmmakers, to stand with him in solidarity. This was they kind of lumped his last 3 films together as a reason to accuse him. A film called Goodbye, another film called Manuscripts Don't Burn, and this one. This was like kind of the final straw. The government's like, all right, you know what? This is collusion against our government. Okay, here's another one. There's no score in this film at all, Farhan.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Did you even catch that?
When there's no score in a scene, you can kind of impose your own level of how intense things are going to be as the movie's going on. Like the scene where he goes to meet with Abbas and like try to give him like a bullshit apology just for the sake of like squashing things. Yeah. And Abbas calls him a coward and a wimp and whatever. And he stomps out angrily. I was like half expecting him to like stomp out a frame and then stomp back in with a gun and then just cut it and he shoots him in the head. Because like when there's no music, I was like, oh, how much is this escalating? And then just like cuts to him at home. And I'm like, oh.
Development of this last film, it took him 3 years. He was working on another film before this. And he had left the country for a few years. It took longer because the actor dropped out and the seasons changed. So he was gone from Iran longer than he thought. When he got back, his passport was taken from him while they like looked into him. But he had said that he had noticed so much had changed in Iran. He had noticed that corruption had become endemic and much larger than he had remembered. It had permeated every aspect of life and behavior. And moreover, what was shocking to me, this is him talking, was that it had become normalized. I thought this is not normal and deserves attention and could be the subject of a film. So he had just been shocked by how it wasn't just the system. It was just the fact that it was just accepted at this point. Yeah. Which he felt was a sudden drastic change.
There's a really interesting YouTube video by this guy who basically just like goes through and talks about city planning. Like it's not a political YouTube channel at all.
City planning in Iran?
No, in general, just like cities across the world. Okay. And he does this video on how Iran was talking about moving the capital city to southern Iran and just like building a new capital city from scratch. And in the video, he like does a deep dive into why it might actually not be a terrible idea because of how much of a wash Tehran is at this point. And he mentions how it's just like, like 40, 50 years of corruption at every single level of city planning results in an entire city of 9 million people that's basically decrepit and falling apart. Because like even as low rung on the ladder as like trying to get a permit signed off on, even if you've done everything correctly, that permit application will sit at the bottom of the pile and it'll keep getting pushed to the bottom of the pile unless you pay the guy to push it to the top. Right. And then on top of that, it's things like sometimes the standards for building material are so high because they're expecting you to come in and bribe them to completely waive the standards. And as a result, a lot of people will actually just cut costs on building material standards and quality of materials because they know that at the end of the day, no one's going to check it because they're going to bribe them anyway.
Yeah.
And it's normalized.
It's amazing anything gets done.
Yeah.
It's amazing anything gets done.
Yeah.
And I don't think much gets done. But like the fact that anything at all gets done.
Yeah.
The fact that a light bulb gets changed in that country is crazy.
An acquaintance of somebody we know was admitting that when they're doing these like construction budgets in Tehran, they have to put in a line item for bribery because it's such an expected thing, and that's how you make buildings in Iran.
Yeah.
It's probably not labeled bribery, but like contingency or something.
It's crazy that your father had to do that. Your uncle, sorry.
It's not my dad.
Your uncle, your brother?
It's not my uncle.
Your brother?
No one related to
I
me.
see. Okay.
It's the ex-husband of the best friend of the mom of a friend of ours.
I can't tell you another story. Now going back to this film. Rasoulof told an anecdote about what really kind of made the pieces connect for him, where he was doing a favor. One of the ways he made ends meet was he'd do like small like film independent projects or documentaries or like make DVDs for weddings and stuff like that, right? And he'd fund his own films by making money through his business. So it's just like a production company, right? And so one of his highest customers had asked him to make like a recut on a film for a DVD for a documentary or something. So he went to the office late at night, and then he was leaving. I'm kind of telling a truncated version of the story, but when he was leaving, he got pulled over by the cops, and the cops just pulled him to the side, and they were asking questions. They checked the car. He's like, stand outside the car, and he just kept waiting and waiting, and they'd pull over other cars, and he waited like 20 minutes, 30 minutes. He sat back in his car, waited 45 minutes, and he's like, I'm getting really tired, and I need to go. And he's getting agitated, and he's just sitting there, and eventually, after a while, one of the other soldiers comes and knocks on the window, and it's like, can't I, like, what's going on? What's taking so long? He's like, just wait and see or whatever. And then like later on, that was like the sergeant. Then the younger soldier comes and knocks on his window and goes, he says, man, just come and pay the money so we can leave. Like, that's what the soldier says. And like, I'll tell you, he goes,
that's funny.
He's like, Baba, yek cheesy bid he's just like, just give us something. And the whole thing was, he realized in that moment is like the soldiers, they're pulling him over, waiting to pay them so they can move on.
Right.
There was no like search for anything. He didn't have anything on him. And so he actually says to the guy that he's like, I don't have any money on me. And like the soldier's like, all right, so like, but I have some money in my office. He goes to get the soldier gets in the car with him and he drives him to his office so he can give him a bribe. And when he goes into his office, he takes photos of the bills he's giving him.
Who takes photos?
Rasoulof takes photos of the specific bills he's going to pay him, and he pays him the money. Then he like gets back and drops him off at the police station and goes to his chief of police and is like, these guys bribed me and forced me to give him money. Here's the photo of the bills I took. If you match these to the serial numbers, he has these bills in his pocket right now. And essentially the chief of police was like, oh, okay, I'll look into that. Great. He throws out the paper and they detained him for 3 days.
Jesus Christ.
And he couldn't deliver on that DVD. So his customer was really upset with him.
Oh my God.
He's like, dude, you said you were going to do this cut on this DVD. I needed it yesterday or whatever. Like, what happened? And he was just like, every system of him trying to do his job was like delayed by corruption. For nothing, like literally nothing. Like, it's a mafia gang that's pull over to the side of the road. We're gonna hold you here until you give us money. Yeah. And then when he went to go complain to try to get this guy in trouble for what they did, the chief was like, yeah, okay, oh yeah, good. Go in the prison cell for 3 days. Yeah. Like, it's an absurd experience to live in Iran at this time and that time and ongoing. Like, it is. It's kind of like poor Iranians, man. My heart goes out to the people living there. There are 2 stories he mentions of religious minorities in the film, and he does agree that they are Baha'i. He just was using a coded language, not directly referring, but he says they're Baha'i. He said that this is drawn from a real life experience he had where he remembers growing up as a kid and reading like newspapers and magazines where families would release articles being like, we want to reject our Baha'i faith and we renounce that we aren't practicing this religion. And he saw it so often, he asked his dad, why are they doing this? And his dad had to sit down and explain how the Baha'i are persecuted and their life becomes easier if they publicly denounce their faith. So he had seen these magazine articles. So, you know, that line goes, why don't they just place an article? It's from his own experience of remember seeing this. And he thought how fucked up that was. Right. Yeah. Do you know about this?
Well, about what? About this happening to Baha'is?
About having to relieve, specifically the articles and releasing the ads.
Oh, this stuff happens like once in a while, or sometimes it'll be like a video and like an interrogation thing, but like everyone knows, like they know, the public knows, everyone knows that it's BS, and they just go back to like being Baha'is, obviously. But like a big part of this is because, especially in the 80s and the 90s, Baha'is were not just fired from their jobs and barred from public education, but they were like executed, firing squad or by hanging. Like my parents, when a month after they got married, they were fired for being Baha'i and degrees revoked. Like with my mom, her principal, because she was a teacher, the principal of the school brought her into his office and he's like, hey, this is like come down from like upper management and like the government. They need you to sign here that you're like renouncing that you're a Baha'i. And these things were like pre-filled, like these statements and stuff. He's like, just sign here and say that you're not a Baha'i anymore and that you're a Muslim and we'll let you keep your job. And she's like, well, no, I'm not going to sign that. That's not true. And he's like, I know, and I know you're a Baha'i and I don't care that you're a Baha'i, but I need you to sign this or I will be forced to fire you and remove and like revoke your degree, whatever. And she's like, okay, fire me then. And so they like fired her, and for the reason for firing her, it says on the thing like as fired for being a Baha'i and an enemy of God or whatever. And like she has that certificate. I want to get it from her one day and like frame it and like put it on my wall.
Proud enemy of God.
Yeah. I have a little more on that from Rasoulof, from Rasoulof.
About Baha'i specifically?
Yeah, about that scene in the movie.
Go for it. Yeah.
Yeah, so when the movie was coming out, they tried to make him censor the movie. The problem is not personal. They can't tolerate anyone who does not think like them. They can't let those people make movies. They have their own rhetoric, which I never understood. For example, they say, your movies are dark. I was arguing that we already have a ministry to deal with these kinds of affairs. It's called the Ministry of Culture and Islamic Guidance. And I've been questioned there enough for my movies. However, I answer their questions. They had another problem with the movie. They insisted that with this film, I supported Baha'is. They tried to make me change my mind and not defend the Baha'is since they are already, quote unquote, blasphemers. I explained that my movie does not directly mention Baha'is and it's just about religious discrimination in general. My point is that any Iranian with any belief should be able to go to school. I told them that my problem is with a regime that weighs people's rights based on their beliefs. They could not stand any of these themes in the movie that dealt with religious discrimination.
Yeah. Classic tale as old as time.
Yeah.
Beauty and the Beast.
Yep.
Beauty being Iranian art and Beast being the IRGC.
Yeah.
There's a clue he puts in this film, a little bit of an Easter egg that he deliberately wanted as like a sort of wink to the audience. You probably didn't catch this. I'm going to just tell you. It's very subtle. But he deliberately names all of the elements of corruption that exist in all the all the locations, all of the hospitals, schools. They're all under the same title. So it's called Askari. So the police office, police station is called the Askari police station. The company isn't named, but it's like the Askari location here. The school is called Askari, and it's like they all have the same name kept showing up in this whole town to give it this uniform sense of it's all bought and controlled and sold by the same individual or something. It's a hint he put there to see like the same repeated title over and over again. It's ambiguous, but it's sort of supposed to show like this little wink towards the overall. This corruption is permeated through all elements of life. Also, the prisoner who's holding Reza, his name was Askari. Sorry, the prison guard who's holding Reza, his name is Askari. Maybe he owns all of it or whatever. It's something.
Or it could just be like a allegorical representation of like how the people are being held down by Askari.
One person had asked in a Q&A at Stanford University with Rasoulof, it's like, you would tend to make more metaphorical films. Like when White Meadows, a lot of your film, like all of your commentary is metaphorical. And like you seem to have changed that with Manuscripts Don't Burn. And now this film. And I just wanted to know the reason for that change. And he said that when he's writing in Iran and he wants to write the structure of a film, he was more inclined to metaphors because he wanted to make criticisms against the Iranian government in less direct ways, right? And it was upon him to like, just from the lessons of classical Iranian literature, and he grew up as a student, literally a student of Beizai's, like Beizai he calls his professor. He said, I reverted to the language of metaphors because it was a way to permeate the things that I wanted to say. Because then, but then he's like, but then they arrested me anyways. even when I spoke in metaphor, they arrested me. So when I got out of jail, I was like, what difference does it make? If they're going to arrest me for speaking in metaphors, I'll say it directly and literally.
Yeah.
So like, that's why it's been a shift. It's like, you see Seed of the Sacred Fig. There's no metaphors in that really. It's just like, here's how it is. There is no evil. It's like blatantly like, here's how corrupt they are. So it's just funny for him to be like, he's just like, I
made a note of how like this and White Meadows are kind of very similar commentary, but one is heavily metaphorical to the point where it's a fantasy film.
Yeah.
Almost. And then this one is like very direct. There is one big metaphor in the film that I think is prevalent, and I'll talk about it in deeper analysis.
But let's go to critical reactions really quickly first. This film won the top prize on certain regard. A certain regard. Section at 27 at the 27 Cannes Film Festival. And obviously, like, I don't go through all of them anymore, but like at Chicago International Film Festival, it won Best Screenplay, nominated for Best Film. At Antalya Golden Orange Film Festival, it won Best Actor for Reza Akhlaqirat, who played Reza, and Best Director, the Golden Orange. So it did well, obviously, at the film festival. Obviously, winning that award, that top prize at Cannes, brings a lot of notoriety. Godfrey Cheshire gave it 3 out of 4 stars on RogerEbert.com.
Sick.
Rasulov's story proceeds with a deliberate pace and simmering tension of a 70s political thriller. A political film seething with white-hot anger. A man of integrity has a premise that might work dramatically in numerous other contexts. You can imagine it as a classic Western with a young soil tiller, played by, say, Jimmy Stewart, facing off against ruthless cattle barons and their bought and paid for constabulary. Though full of dramatic and thematic fascinations, A Man of Integrity is not without its flaws. Some important actions happen off screen, obliging viewers to puzzle out things that could have been more clearly presented. Also, especially for non-Iranian viewers, the large number of characters and the complexity of their relationships can sometimes be hard to parse. Which I actually agree with them on. We're like confused about these last, like, it's not the main guys, but it's like all these like who his friend was, the ally. By the time you're getting to like fourth round supporting characters, I'm like, wait, these guys seem important.
There's a lot of characters in this movie.
Yeah, for like,
and there's like towards the end of the film, I was like starting to lose track of like who certain characters were.
Well, and also like I read this first because it was a RogerEbert.com, and they always have different, since Ebert's passing, they have different reviews. So I read the article first. I'm like, large number of Iranian characters, complex. I'm like, is this guy just saying that Iranians all look like and he can't tell? I'm like, who wrote this? Because I was quick to dismiss it. I'm like, it's kind of like, what? You can't follow an Iranian film. And then I saw Godfrey Cheshire wrote it. I'm like, oh, that's coming with quite validity. Yeah, this guy like knows his Iranian cinema. For him to say it, it's like means something.
And you felt the same way too, right? Watching it?
Yeah. I just thought like from .com, it's like some like, white Chicago Tribune writer or something. I'm like,
yeah.
But then
and it's got to be so much worse for white people who are like never seen a brown person in their life watching this.
I also want to add, Richard Brody from The New Yorker said Rasulov's realism is radical in the literal sense. He exposes the root of Iranian society and reveals its founding premise to be all-pervasive source of injustices and corruption. A Man of Integrity is both a work of political defiance and of artistic audacity. Last one, Sean Baker wrote on his letterbox. Sean Baker said, watched at Billy Wilder Theater at the Hammer as part of UCLA's celebration of Iranian cinema. Reminds me of this quote by Michael Ventura. Be careful how you choose your enemy, for you will come to resemble him. The moment you adapt your enemy's methods, your enemy has won. The rest is suffering in historical opera. That's what, he didn't review the film, but he just made that point, that this film made him think.
Historical opera?
Yeah. Take that for what it means. Deeper analysis. Go ahead, Farhan, June.
I mean, this one's pretty self-explanatory, but like the entire movie is about how an honest man making one simple mistake can have his life and his entire family's life ruined by corruption at every single stopgap in the system and society. Any bit of reprieve that the family does experience is due to bribery and corruption on their end. So like this corruption is rampant to such a point that it even corrupts honest people.
Yes. The virus is so deadly that it will destroy good cells.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on his name being Reza?
The thing I got confused about at the beginning was the Reza is the actor's name. That's why I was like, that's also his name. I had written that down, and I was like, why did I write that? It's Reza's name too. I don't know. Well, you tell me. I don't know much about the etymology of Reza's name.
Well, I mean, part of it could be the whole thing with like, I don't know. I'm like, obviously writers will be naming their characters for a reason. Part of it could be that, well, the actor's name was Reza, so he just named the character Reza.
Mm-hmm.
But part of me does wonder if he was named after Reza Shah,
Mm-hmm.
who his whole spiel, like back when he was Reza Khan and like why he was doing what he was doing, was because he was trying, like the prevailing history at the time was that he was trying to fight against a corrupt system. Like this was at a time where the Qajar basically ruled absolutely with no constitution, with no parliament, and he was part of the constitutional revolution when he was young. And as a general, he was part of the people who ended up overthrowing the Qajar when they didn't hold up their end of the bargain after the constitutional revolution, and then obviously made himself the king. So I think there is some parallels there where it's like, oh look, he's like resisting this like corrupt system, all this stuff, and then eventually when it doesn't go exactly the way he wanted and when people aren't holding their end of the bargain, he kind of overthrows the like local head honcho and becomes the new head honcho.
Right. So you're saying it's a metaphor for Iran's history?
I think part of like at least that's the name, that's the reason behind his name.
I
don't think that the whole movie is metaphor for that, but I think that it's like, that's why he's named this.
It's also just a common ass friggin' name. Like we've seen like 10 other films that their name is Reza.
For sure, but you can't tell me that when you're naming a character in your scripts, the lead character in a feature film, you're probably picking names for reasons. You're not just gonna like pull a name out of a hat.
I genuinely pull names out of hats.
You?
Yeah.
For your features?
Yeah.
I don't believe you.
I use the name Amir and Ali all the time for Persian characters, just cause.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. What are you gonna pick once you get to the letter B? I'm guessing that you're just making your way through the letter A so far.
Bamir and Bali.
Nice.
So the cave, he keeps returning to the cave in the film. This is a direct thing. This is not my deeper analysis, but he said that the cave is a real place. It's in Gilan, in a northern part, actually called Ramsar. And he said that every time that Reza goes in that cave, it's a journey into his own self. So every time he comes to crossroads and has to make a moral choice, he has to look inwards and look upon himself. So we saw him go into that cave and drink the wine every time he had to make a serious decision. And this is supposed to be essentially him going into his own mind. Like he might as well be inside his own brain, trying to like come to face his own
I had the same thought. That's cool.
It also speaks to his loneliness too, because if you notice, Reza doesn't have any friends really. He has the one friend that he tries to go visit, he finds out has already been imprisoned when he goes talk to his wife. But he's lonely too. So there's something about the loneliness and isolation that Mohammad Rasoulof really liked. But there's also an element of the ablution. Like he goes to the cave and he like bathes himself and he cleans himself. And you notice when he thinks that his son is lying, there's that really extended scene of him telling his son to scrub himself with soap really aggressively, even behind your ears. Like he thinks his son has lied. Later on, there's a like extended scene from we see behind Reza's back. He's like rubbing himself and washing himself very aggressively, like arm on his shoulders and head. It's like this thing is like he feels really dirty with like the corruption around him, and he's constantly trying to physically clean it off of him. So he goes into the cave and does that.
Well, and they even call Abbas and his family dirty. Like that's the word that they use.
Yeah.
You know what we didn't even talk about at all?
What?
Is the fact that Abbas killed his own daughter.
Yeah, because I mean the thing is that just ends up there's no confirmation of whether that's true. That's like even one character says that's the story about him. That's the gossip about him. So I don't know how much credence you can say about that.
I feel like that's fair, given that like this girl who's in grade 11 clearly looks like she's like 4 years younger because she's like using the Shahnasnama of the older sister.
Yeah.
Also, that scene comes right after the scene of the Baha'is, right? Where they're like talking about the Baha'i girl. And then it shows the other girl who's Abbas's daughter. And then the one teacher is like, oh, watch out for Abbas's family. They're dirty. Religious fundamentalists call Baha'is dirty. So the fact that like this other guy and his daughter and whatever, like they're still in the school. Meanwhile, this teacher is openly calling Abbas's family dirty, like the crazy ones, I thought was really interesting.
Yeah. We saw a bit of that's also like, what was the film we did? House of Sand and Fog. Remember that they constantly call the Arabs dirty?
Yeah.
It's like constantly the term used for any race you don't agree.
Yeah.
Dirty blank, whatever. It's always like you take a race you don't like and you say dirty in front of it. And you're like, dirty Americans.
I want to mention the fact that there's this really cool scene in the film where all the goldfish are dead and surrounded.
Yeah.
And surrounding him in sludge.
Yep.
that to me, and it's interesting because it's like each time he takes like a baby step towards doing something more and more corrupt, his life around him actually in a lot of ways gets worse. Like everything that he stood to protect.
Yeah.
Right. So first it's one dead goldfish when he's like first having the conversation with the guy about doing the money laundering. And then when he accepts a little bit of a tip from the guy, he comes home and one fish is dead. Right. Where at first it's like one is dead, and then the second time he comes home, and then a bunch of them are dead, and then he goes and he fights the guy, and he like gets out of jail and all this stuff. And after he like physically fights the guy, then like everything around him is dead, right? With the sludge. And then he goes a little further, and then his whole place has been burned down. So each time he turns on his own moral code, his own life around him starts to deteriorate more and more. I'm actually surprised that the movie didn't end with like his kid is dead or something. I was like half expecting that to be the very end of the movie.
It's also important to say this because Rasoulof said this in the interview. He goes, he's not trying to be overly symbolic in his films anymore, but it still comes out of it from time to time. And the goldfish, he specifically said in Iranian literature, represent echoes of the past, but they also represent innocence too. So that goldfish representing innocence actually tracks really well with what you're saying. Every time he does another act, another bit of innocence is dying, right? Until he's plunged fully in and all of the... Also, if you notice, it's really interesting that the fish are trapped. They're contained and controlled in a body of water. And it's like an artificial environment that he's created for them. And if you look at this at Reza initially, because you find out Reza was a former professor too. He was a teacher as well. That he lost his job for speaking out. Him and his friend who are now in jail again. Like they spoke out about something I can't remember. But it's like now he's he's quit his job or he's been fired from his job for speaking out, and he's trying to live outside of the system on his farm. Right? He's trying to live a life.
The system has caught up with him.
Well, it's just like,
because he used to say, he was like, there's two ways to do it. You either live as the oppressed or you live as the oppressor. And his friend is like, you found a third option.
Yeah.
But now that third option is being completely compromised.
Yeah, he lives in a self-contained ecosystem, or he's trying to in a way, like the goldfish in that pond, right?
Yeah.
And it's like in a corrupt system, integrity is proving to not be a virtue. Like he can't live in his own bubble. It's liability for him to have integrity.
Yeah.
He can't just live. He can't like live with integrity and live on the farm alone. It's causing him more pain.
Well, I mentioned earlier that as the movie goes on, we see Reza making the watermelon moonshine, and for me part of that is like because when you're making alcohol, you're like rotting a fruit under controlled circumstances, but like in essence the fruit is rotting and it's like kind of being corrupted. And so each time he's doing something and he's going further and further, we're also cutting back to him further and further along the process of making the moonshine, to the point where right as he's committing this like unforgivable act, we see him in the cave, which you mentioned is like his own mind. And he's drinking the alcohol. The other thing that I wanted to mention, the last thing, Reza and his wife's relationship had these, I think that they're supposed to be kind of representative of the relationship between men and women in Iranian society today.
Great.
That's my last one.
Great. Okay, cool. Let's go to best scene.
What's your favorite scene, Kaveh?
My favorite scene, Farhan, I almost called you Reza. The school teacher scene when Hadis is essentially threatening the student. I really liked it because it sort of was not only an intense scene in terms of how it was written on its own, but it also becomes like these people are supposed to be the good guys. And here you have this moment where now the corruption is permeated onto the wife. And she's essentially not blackmailing, but sort of threatening this little girl who's not really involved in this. And I just thought that was interesting, like how you're seeing it slowly seep in. And I thought the scene was very well written. So I liked it a lot. That's my favorite scene.
Solid. Mine is the scene where the Baha'i lady shows up and she says that whole thing about like, oh yeah, after 20 years, they fired my husband without compensation, like all of that, down to that last line of, it's like that here. It's better you go somewhere where no one knows your religion. That just hit really close to home for me. So, and it was like cool to see that represented in an Iranian film. I had never seen that before.
Yeah. You have to find some Baha'i Iranian films to cover.
There aren't very many.
Damn, that's poetry. I've got a few.
Yeah, I have a few as well.
I just thought this one was a funny one. I don't think either of us will have it, where Reza wants to go talk to the chief of police, but he's like not in the office, and he's at the cemetery, and you realize they're causing a whole thing because that's the other moment. There's a Baha'i family trying to bury their loved one. A young girl has died, committed suicide at 19 years old, and they're trying to bury her, and they won't let her bury her because she's not Muslim. Do you remember that? He's like, what's all the hubbub here? And he's like, oh, they're trying to bury her. You can't have a non-Muslim be buried in a Muslim cemetery. To which Reza says, non-Muslims can't be buried in a Muslim cemetery. What are you worried? She'll secretly get passed and end up in paradise? And the guy goes, hey, watch your mouth. Do you remember when he's giving the cigarette? Do you remember this scene?
I missed that line.
It's when he's giving the cigarette to the other cop, the other soldier waiting outside. So I just thought that was a funny scene. You can give one too. Let's go back and forth until one of us repeats the other ones.
It's in the scene where he's talking to the wife of his friend, and she's talking about, yeah, we once had a conversation a long time ago where you had told me, in this country, you're either an oppressor or you're the oppressed because there's no other option. Mm-hmm. And then she, of course, goes on to talk about how you found a third option, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. You left the blah, 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 all this stuff.
I had that too.
But yeah, that whole thing of like, yeah, you're either an oppressor or the oppressor, I thought was interesting.
Yeah. That was one of mine too. Yeah, so I only have one more.
Hit me.
But it's my favorite one.
Hit me.
I think it's when the teacher is giving the student a hard time. It's the Hadith is talking to the student, and she's like, it's okay. Like, you could tell me, is your father have like a broken arm or not, and all this stuff. And she's like, she's like, sometimes we have to talk to each other about these things because men can be a certain way. But she ends that line. She goes,
یه وقتایی مردا با غرورشون یه مشکلایی درست میکنن که فقط زنای عاقل میتونن اون مشکلات رو حل کنن.
Sometimes men's prides can cause problems that only women's intelligence can save.
Okay, that's solid. That marries really nicely with my number one favorite.
Yeah.
It's when Hadith and Reza are having this big argument over the fact that Hadith was trying to solve this problem with Abbas's family herself. Mm-hmm. And Abbas basically insinuated that she was like going around their place and like trying to sell herself, I guess, like sexually to like get them out of it, which is not at all what she did, obviously, but he's like trying to get under his skin.
Yeah.
Reza loses his temper. She's like, well, I was trying to fix it, blah, 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 all this stuff. And then she says,
همیشه همینجوری هستی مشکلاتو درست می‌کنی بعد میذاری میری جربازه نداری مسائل حل کنی بذار من حلشون کنم.
This is what always happens. You create the problems, then you bail. If you don't have the courage to do it, let me fix it myself. And to me, this is all about how men got Iran into this mess, and it's the women who are pleading for them to be able to fix it themselves. The cool thing too is the fact that this movie came out right before the Mahsa Amini, the Women Life Freedom protests, because there was like women were becoming more and more and more emboldened.
Yeah.
In regards to, okay, well, if the men aren't going to do something, we need to rise up and do it ourselves.
Yeah, that's solid. Good stuff.
Thanks. I wrote the movie myself.
Best performance.
I wonder if we have the same one. Is yours a woman or a man?
Woman.
Yeah, mine too.
Surabe Beyzai.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, she's just scene stealer, I guess. Yeah. Why don't you explain why?
Yeah, definitely.
Also, I did deep research just to triple check. No relation to Bahram Beyzai.
Oh, okay.
As far as I could tell.
She also, I feel like in a lot of ways, emotionally, she had more to work with, like in terms of range in her scenes. I feel like a lot of Reza's stuff are more, his character in general is just more stoic.
Right.
His character's more stoic. You really only see him like lose his cool once. Whereas I feel like Rudabe is given more to work with.
Yeah.
And she kills it. She knocks it out of the park.
Excellent. Festival of Cons. I have one minor one.
Tell me.
So typically when in these Iranian films, when women wear rusaris indoors, it doesn't bother me that much. I get that it has to be done. I kind of get blind to it. I don't see it.
Yeah.
For some reason, every time Sudaba Beyzai wore that rusari in the house, it really distracted me. I don't know if it's the way she wore it. She wore it a few times where it was just on her head and dangling at her sides.
I think that's partially what it was for me too.
It seemed very distracting to me, and I don't know why. It really stood out.
Yeah, same.
I don't normally clock it that much, but every time it just felt really unnatural for her to be wearing that rusari in the house.
I think it's the fact that it's like kind of dangly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know.
I have a couple. My main one, I have like a jokey one, and then I have like two.
Jokey one away.
This one's more of a nitpick. I'm fairly certain the very, very, very first scene of dialogue in the film is ADR, but like just the part where they're outside. Once they're like outside, and then they immediately go inside to the barn or whatever.
Okay.
The stuff outside, I'm fairly certain is ADR, and it did take me out of it. For like the first thing that you hear in a movie, for it to be ADR, I think was very distracting. Either that, or it was just like such a clean recording that it really didn't feel natural. Mm-hmm. And then I thought the casting of the little boy was not great. I thought his performance was great. I just thought the dialogue that they wrote for that character and what he does, they should have had a much younger kid.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the kid didn't look anything like the parents.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you on that.
He even had blue eyes.
Yeah.
You want my jokey one? My jokey one is that the movie didn't end with a John Wick style finale featuring Reza versus Abbas's family.
My cut did.
I feel like it would have been really cathartic to watch.
I think you had an edited version. Mine definitely did that.
Oh, damn. Okay, I got to get the extended cut from you.
Double feature lineup.
What you got?
Chinatown is an obvious one.
Ugh.
I mentioned A Prophet, the Jacques Audiard film.
Mm-hmm.
And really, like, Godfather 2. The backstory behind the Robert De Niro, Michael Corleone, or
I can see
the
that.
black and white Corleone scenes of, like, not the black and white, the sepia ones that he does when it's like...
Yeah. The flashbacks of how Vito becomes who he is.
That sort of rise to power feels a little bit of this.
Yeah. Even, like, in a lot of ways, Michael's scenes in the first half of the first Godfather.
Yeah. Those are my three. I would go Chinatown, though, for sure, is my one for one. Chinatown and this film.
I would skip your double feature.
Okay, that's fine. You are gonna watch so few films if you start realizing how corrupt most of the people in Hollywood are.
My rule is, and I feel like I've talked about this before, but my rule is essentially like, if the filmmaker is a heinous human being, but they made a movie that's like important to cinematic history, I'll watch the movie once and then I'll never watch it again.
What if you love it?
I probably will still not watch it again. I don't know.
Then why watch it even once?
Because I think for the sake of like, like that movie's value and like cinematic history and its impact and whatever, I think that there's a value in the art itself. Because we've talked about how like the art, once it's put out there, no longer belongs to the artist.
Mm-hmm.
But especially with a movie like Chinatown, given its subject matter, you end up finding out that the main plot of the movie is actually about this guy who like keeps sleeping with like his daughter and then his granddaughter and then his great granddaughter, and he's like trying to create like this really creepy like perfect version of himself that's like percentage wise more and more of his own DNA, and it's all about this like old guy who's taking advantage of these young women.
Right.
And then you find out Polanski was this old guy who essentially raped a 14-year-old girl and then was found guilty and ran away. And he was protected by the powers that be. It's like, forget it, Kaveh. It's Hollywood, you know?
Exactly. That's my point. It's Hollywood.
Yeah. My double feature lineup is The White Meadows.
Mm-hmm.
And part of it is because I think it would lead to really interesting discussion to be like, okay, let's see Rasoulof tackling more or less the same subject matter in a very symbolic way with a lot of heavy anecdotes. And then let's see him do it very overtly and directly and literally, and talk about how one method may or may not be more effective than the other. I think it would just make for fun discussions.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yes.
Hollywood remake. I say no, but I weirdly can see this being done above many other movies we've done in the past. I could see this being like something that a producer sees and goes, "Oh, this is a nice fresh," like Taste of Cherries being remade, and that is not needed.
I'm angry about that.
But this would fit more like a film that I could see Hollywood doing a remake of. They love stories about a small man versus a corrupt system. Do you know what I mean?
It's like basically a gangster film.
Yeah, like, or even think of like Aaron Brockovich. You know.
Yeah.
What, like the one?
I haven't seen Aaron Brockovich.
The last person one man with integrity standing up against the whole corrupt system. Or it's To Kill a Mockingbird.
Right.
That idea constantly. Like, Hollywood loves those stories, so I feel like this would actually be done, but I wouldn't do it.
Right. I wrote maybe end it in a John Wick style finale. I said it would be very cathartic. Maybe while he was in Sarwazi, or like when he was like a conscripted soldier in his youth, he had a crazy good shot. And the government wanted him to join the IRGC, but he wouldn't do it because he had integrity. Like, that's his backstory. He goes on to have a family in the farm and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And then everything happens and like makes his life more and more worse. And then when the house is set on fire, maybe his kids or one of his kids gets killed. He goes into the shed. He opens up the thing where the watermelon stuff is, and he pulls out 2 guns. And then he goes in and he kills Abbas's family.
Yes.
That's the Hollywood way of doing it.
Yeah.
Alternatively, I would also be super down to see a sequel to this movie that's all about Abbas as a gang, or all about Reza as this like gangster who goes from being the like capo of I forget what the name is, but the guy who owns the company, and then have him like even replace that guy.
I would skip your movie.
Wow.
Because I would want it to... listen, if I only watch movies...
What if the remake was directed by Scorsese?
No, Roman Polanski. Then I would watch it.
Oh my God. What if the sequel was made by Rasoulof? Would you watch the sequel?
Yeah, sure. I want to say this did remind me of a movie. I kept thinking about a movie called The Net that I want to just put out there. It's directed by
Social Network?
No, it's directed by... It's a Korean film by a director called Kim Ki-duk. And basically, I kept thinking about it, but this man essentially... It's about a lake that's bordering between North Korea and South Korea. And this North Korean fisherman who's happily living his quiet life, fishing and just like existing on farm with his wife and kids. One day his net gets stuck and his propeller gets stuck on his thing, and the boat is unintentionally sailing to South Korean waters, where he gets arrested and he's assumed he's a spy. And that's where the movie, it's like a comical, it's a serious drama. But it's just like this like poor farmer that's get caught up in this like system, and now he becomes like this political pawn between the North and South Korea. It's a really, really good film. But I just kept, and I don't think it's a double feature lineup because they're not like thematically relevant, but it just made me keep thinking about it. So anyways, that's it. I'll just mention that's a great film that I really liked a lot. You should see it.
I'm into it.
Final thoughts and grades.
Can I guess your grade?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure yeah, let's go.
Did you give it a B?
Maybe B minus.
Whoa.
It's okay. It's good.
Crazy.
It's still fine.
Crazy. Can you guess what I gave it?
A minus.
A minus. Yeah, I thought that the movie was pretty damn good. I will say, though, I still really like the way that he does the same commentary in a more like fantastical and like allegorical way. Partially because I think it just gives you a lot more to dive into and play with and have discussions on. Mm-hmm. There's still a lot that you can do that with here, but this feels more of a representation of things that we already know in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That being said, the movie's very well done. If there's one thing I would have changed about it, I would have made the climax of the film the midway point and wanted to see the repercussions of how he basically damned himself to save his child.
Yeah.
That would have been cool to see. But yeah, overall A minus.
That's a little bit of House of Sand and Fog, you know?
Yeah.
Or damned his child to save himself, you know, like that idea of like...
I don't know if I agree with that.
Well, when you were talking about earlier about like how it would have been interesting if his child would have died from all of this.
Oh, I see what you're saying. But if that happened, I would have wanted to have seen I wanted to see him go ham.
Yeah.
So that means that our Cinema Rex show average score for Man of Integrity is B++.
Fantastic. The film is an interesting study in political corruption in Iran and how deeply inundated the country is at all levels. As mentioned, Rasoulof's story proceeds with the deliberate pace of a simmering tension of a 70s political thriller with white-hot anger. In A Man of Integrity, the mercenary corruption that despoils intimate life and social relations finds its core in religious authority, in which a student can be expelled from school or a corpse can be expelled from a cemetery for not being the right religion, and political rule cloaks itself in an indisputable higher law. The movie's extreme contrast between the bland surfaces of daily life and the maddening pressures of ambient power looming beneath them turns its starkly realistic images into calmly furious denunciations, journalistic revelations, and even wildly disorienting hallucinations. Mohammad Rasoulof's film plays as a low-key thriller, and on a more human level, a tragedy about what fear, helplessness, and hopelessness can do to a person. A few midsection pacing issues, yes. Would you agree, Farhan? Yes? And notwithstanding, there's a satisfying, gritty addition to Iran's tradition of humanist cinema, and a reminder that in a world so thoroughly compromised, the rarest and most radical act may simply be to remain a person of, say it with me,
integrity.
Thank you, Farhan June, for
Thank you, Kaveh,
listening to this film, watching this podcast, and all the things in between.
Thank you, Kaveh.
To all of our listeners, you can follow us at Cinema Rex Podcast on Instagram.
TikTok, YouTube.
Sure, yeah, we're on all those things. You know, just be sure to like and subscribe and do all the things that help us sell mattress ads.
Leave us a review on whatever podcasting platform you listen to us on.
Next week, we should read reviews from people that have sent them in. We haven't done that yet.
Yeah, we should. Also, if you have a YouTube account, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a bunch of shorts on there that do pretty damn well. Weirdly, that's our platform that does the best.
Yes. And to all our listeners, I love you.
love you guys.
Freedom for the people of Iran.
Hell yeah.
From every side at which they're being threatened, that freedom. which they stand.
Yeah.
For,
Yes.
I guess.
Which stand they, yes.
And to everybody else, Be'omid Didar.
Bye.
Music for Cinema Rex was written and performed by Sohail Sadinejad.